and welcome back to the channel. So the TTC released their 2021 service plan today. It includes a lot of interesting details, adjustments to buses in downtown and Scarborough, streetcar, pantograph, overhead updates, and other details. But what I wanted to touch on was there's new express services. Particularly, there's an express service on Kennedy Road. And this made me think a bit about the approach that Vancouver takes regarding express bus services and the approach that Toronto takes. And I want to kind of compare and contrast them, talk about the benefits and downsides of both of them, because it's very interesting to me. So when you look at the TTC, it's kind of more logical in my opinion. The way the TTC kind of lays out their primary routes, so these are on major corridors like Finch, Steeles, Kennedy, Eglinton, etc., is that they're going to have a series of routes that operate, and the series of routes all has the same base number. So since the regular Kennedy bus is 43, for the night service you just prepend a 3 onto it. So the 343 is the night bus service on Kennedy. To denote the express services, they prepend a 9, and so the new express service on Kennedy is called the 943. What's very interesting about this compared to Vancouver's approach is typically Vancouver's like true express bus or BRT light type services are the rapid buses, and the rapid buses are all marketed consistently across them, just like with the express bus routes in Toronto, except the rapid buses are not really closely associated with regular routes, at least not through their route numberings, which I think is pretty important, because when you see, for example, 43 and 943, you kind of instantly know that there's some connection between them. So I think that's kind of a valuable thing. The difference in approach is very interesting though. Well, Vancouver has kind of invested in a number of quote-unquote really high-quality BRT light services. The TTC has kind of done a very different approach. The TTC's approach is kind of like rising tide lifts all boats type of thing, where they just do express services all over the place. But these express services, they don't have special vehicles, there's no special extra padding in the seats like in Vancouver. They don't have special stops, they don't have a ton of queue jumps, etc., like the rapid buses were advertised to have in Vancouver. So Toronto's approach is basically just throw articulated buses typically on a route that exists already, usually in peak periods only, and have them skip a bunch of stops. And that's how express buses work. Now, the benefit of this is that in Toronto, a ton of express bus routes exist. I don't know the exact number, but it's like 30 plus express bus routes. In Vancouver, there's currently 5 rapid bus routes. There will be more in the future. I think plans call for up to 11 rapid bus routes, but still, it's not like Toronto where express buses exist on a ton of corridors. Now, the fact that Toronto only has express bus services in peak generally on a lot of routes is probably actually okay, because bus services tend to travel slower in the peak, and so it kind of mitigates that time travel difference that you might get on one of the slower local routes during peak periods. It's really interesting then to look at Vancouver. So Vancouver has taken, as I mentioned, a very different approach. The rapid buses, or B-lines as a lot of people still know them, are basically key corridors where they've really tried to elevate the service. And so it's interesting. Toronto is very committed to making sure that the express buses are an enhanced version of the bus, whereas in Vancouver, rapid bus is like its own mode almost. It's included on rapid transit maps. Also, as I mentioned before, the rapid bus routes operate special vehicles generally. It seems like these kind of plans to operate a certain vehicle type on certain routes never really works that well wherever it's done, at least in North America, but there's some consistency to that. The stops are far enhanced, the service frequency is kind of set and consistent, and the services operate all day and late into the night. Now, when it comes to night services, this is where everything kind of inverts though. One thing I find really annoying about Vancouver's express bus, rapid bus services is that the rapid buses don't run 24 hours a day. So we kind of acknowledge that the rapid bus is a really important corridor that should get a really high quality service. It feels counterintuitive that these same corridors don't have 24-hour services. Now, I have complained a lot about Vancouver's lack of night service, but the rapid buses being added would really help because a lot of the rapid bus routes are kind of orbital, they cross town, etc. And I think they would do a lot to expand the coverage of the night network and kind of make the night network a lot more functional. If you look at Toronto, pretty much every route that has an express bus service also has a night bus service. Now, the night bus services aren't super frequent, but they meet the standard that Vancouver has and often exceed them on key routes like the Yonge night bus, for example. And I think that this approach, where service is kind of like a package, where you have the route has its standard route, it has an express route, and it has a night route, and these are all packaged together, it makes a lot of sense. I really like how it makes it clear which corridors are high priority. When you put an express bus and a night bus on Kennedy or Steeles, for example, you're saying that you want people to be able to travel quickly on or off peak and 24 hours on these routes via transit. Now, if you're someone who doesn't live on one of those key corridors, you don't need to necessarily dismay either. For a long time, I lived on Cummer Avenue in North York, and what was really interesting was, while Cummer did not have 24-hour bus service, it was within walking distance for me to go either south or north to Steeles or Finch Avenue and then get a 24-hour service there. Now, I'm not saying that all areas of Toronto specifically have this kind of dense enough grid of express and night bus services that you can always walk to one if you're not on one, but it is quite good. The network is dense and it definitely beats Vancouver in that regard. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I really wanted to talk about and kind of contrast the approaches to rapid and express services between Vancouver and Toronto because I'm really not sure that there is a better approach. What would be really cool would be to see the TTC introduce some services like the B lines and to see Vancouver introduce express buses in peak hours and more night bus service. I think that that's kind of one of the things I hope to do with this channel. You guys might have noticed I have a new tagline, which is transforming transit, and I think that it's important that we communicate transit and talk about it, like in this video, so that we can get those sort of ideas. I think that Toronto and Vancouver both have a lot of great ideas, but combining them would make a better transit system for everyone. Thanks again, folks. I'll see you in the next one.